We are live. How about you, everybody? Welcome into this week's edition of the Auburn Live call-in show. I'm your host, Jeffrey Lee, Senior Recruiting Editor for Auburn Live on 3. If you're not a member of that site, you're absolutely missing out. Now is a fantastic time to join. It always is, but now is even better because we're in the heart of spring practice. We've got some recruits coming in this week. Woo-wee! Scrimmage on Friday. Auburn basketball was just selected to the NCAA tournament. We're going to have all that. Baseball's getting into full swing as well. Here to talk to me about it all are my three cohorts, Mr. Jhead, Mr. Cole Pinkston, and Mr. Keith Niebuhr. How about you, fellas?
How about you?
Yes, sir.
Hey, today is Sunday, March the 12th, also known as Selection Sunday.
Woo!
And unsurprisingly, I don't know if I should say unsurprisingly, maybe it would have been 2 weeks ago, but Auburn was selected to the NCAA tournament, I think, for the fourth time under Bruce Pearl.
Fourth in the last 6 years. It would have been 5 except for the COVID season, which they canceled the postseason tournament. So really heck of a run for Bruce. And the only year we missed it was Sharif's year. And obviously he was penalized for the first half of the season. Who knows if he plays the entire season if we don't make the tournament that year.
Auburn is the number 9 seed. They will be playing against the number 8 seed, the Hawkeyes of Iowa. Maybe a pretty good matchup, right?
I think so. Pretty balanced matchup. And obviously I want everybody to kind of chime in here. But from what I've seen from Iowa this year, they've been a little inconsistent, similar to Auburn. They have the ability to play with the best in the country at times. And at other times they kind of fall into ruts similar to us. So
Okay.
A good matchup from that standpoint. I haven't had an opportunity yet to look at the length differential to see what we're looking at from that perspective, because length in the backcourt has given Auburn fits at times. So I do want to take a quick peek at that and see how we match up there. But what's got me excited is, obviously Bruce's history with Iowa. We all know what that is, and that'll obviously be a big talking point for people. But if you get beyond Iowa, the chance to play Houston, that's big time. And obviously that could send us home early in the round of 32, or if you beat Houston, well, now you're in the Sweet 16 with the potential at the Elite 8 and or the Final Four, because the field gets that much easier if you knock out the number 1 seed.
Keith, I saw you had a great post today on the Corner Auburn Live message board. You were giving Auburn I think a 30% chance to advance past the first round.
Yeah, I mean, I figured let's do odds before we even know the brackets.
Okay.
How much does it change?
Yeah,
and then how much does it change after you see it? Well, hell, it changed a lot to me.
Okay.
I went from 35% just thinking, well, first of all, I thought they'd probably be a 10 seed like a lot of people did. So you're thinking 10 versus 7, which would be tough. Instead, it's 8 versus 9, which, you're right on par with that team, really.
Sure.
And then also it's in Birmingham. So you put those factors in. I think it's a coin toss, this first round game. I really do. Some people would probably say I'm stupid for saying it's a coin toss. That obviously Auburn would be the favorite. I mean, Iowa's a pretty solid team. This great offense. They got 13 losses. And the Big Ten didn't look like a world beater group this year to me. Did it to you guys? You know what I mean? Historically, it's a great program. 29th tournament appearance. Auburn's got 12. They've been to 4 Elite Eights and 3 Final Fours, but no Final Fours for Iowa since 1980. So it's kind of been a program that, man, when you love basketball as much as those people do, Jeffrey, and they have maybe like Auburn not winning an SEC title in football since 1980. I mean, that is a long, long time for them to go not to get to the 5-4. So they're hungry. Their coach, there's a lot of people that don't want their coach back, Fran McCaffrey. But I think if you woke up this morning and you looked at it or without knowing, you thought, oh boy, I don't know about this one. And then you see it and you start thinking, man, potential for 2 games in Birmingham. Gosh, I mean, all of a sudden you think, who knows? And Jeffrey, you win. I thought they played pretty well the second half against Arkansas, the loss, but you win the first one, they're going to feel good about themselves. You're still kind of playing in Birmingham against Houston in that second game, most likely. So I don't know. I feel a lot better about things than I did 3 hours ago. I don't know about you, Jeff.
Jhead, do you?
I feel a lot better. It's particularly getting the Birmingham seed, because you're going to have a little bit of a home court advantage. I mean, look, Auburn fans, if we were having to play in California, the presence wouldn't be nearly as significant. But in our home state, in an arena that we're very familiar with in Legacy Arena. You know Auburn is going to be easily able to pack it out when we play. I think the thing that gives me confidence, obviously we have had difficulty in close games. But in that difficulty, look, you've played some top-notch teams. You took Alabama down to the wire twice. You played Texas A&M down to the wire at their place. You beat Tennessee in a tough matchup. The only game that you lost where it was a complete blowout was at Kentucky in Rupp. And that's just been a house of horrors for Auburn for as long as I can remember. But I love the way we're playing. Even the loss to Arkansas, which is a very long and lengthy team. I just talked about how length gives Auburn issues. We played them down to the wire. And realistically, if Wendell doesn't force the action on that last play, we have an opportunity to go ahead by one if we just set the offense and probably have a little bit more of a controlled break than where Wendell wanted. I understand what he wanted to do and why he thought he could fit that in there. I probably personally would have done something differently, but personally I also wouldn't be playing Wendell's position because I'm not as good as Wendell. Okay. So that's easy for me to say from the cheap seats, but I love the way this team is playing right now. I think they are tough. I think they've been challenged. They've gone through a lot of adversity this year, and we get in a pretty evenly matched team in Iowa. I mean, I don't feel like when we roll out the ball on the court against Iowa that we're going to be intimidated in any way, shape, form, or fashion. You get the home court advantage. So I like us in that first round matchup. Obviously, Houston's tough. And if they're at full speed, I would never predict us to win that game. But look, crazy things happen in the tournament. The tournament, to me, is the funnest way to declare a champion, and it is also the worst way to declare a champion.
I completely agree.
You only have to win. You got to win one game, survive and advance. And that other team just has to shoot it bad one night. That's all it takes.
How about the fact that there's tournament games being played in Des Moines, Iowa, and they sent Iowa to Birmingham to play Auburn.
That usually happens.
That's a higher seed, you know.
That usually happens to Auburn. Hey, I'm getting hit up again. People want to know where they can buy a house or who they should call. I got it, people. Jessica Andrews with the Talents Group, 334-704-4442. Auburn, Opelika, Lee County. She can do it all, folks. 5-star realtor. She's now with the Talents Group. She does a hell of a job. 334-704-4442. And tell her we sent you. Hey, what we need now, we need a couple of callers. I want to know how people are feeling about the basketball selection. I want to know how people feel about the recruiting list that was just put out at Auburn Live on 3. The updates Cole Pinkston has had all weekend. Practice starts back tomorrow. We believe there's going to be a scrimmage on Friday. So baseball actually just lost their first series of the year. So a lot's going on, man. A lot is about to get started back going on. Cole, talk to us, big dog, about your weekend, man. How'd you come away with the weekend?
Yeah, man. You know, I think we found out about one guy that has Auburn in his top 5, a safety from South Carolina.
Surprised by that, wasn't you?
I was, and I didn't know who he was. I'm just to be honest. So I looked into it. Yeah, Auburn likes him. They definitely like him. Kelvin Hunter.
I think so.
Hunter. Yeah. I think he had App State, South Carolina, Michigan. From what I understand, this is a really underrated guy, and On 3 was kind of ahead of that and got him up to a 4-star. And the consensus now or the industry ranking now says he's a 4-star. So I think Auburn's actually, trying to get in the game here. South Carolina, Michigan, probably up there. They've been there a little longer. We'll find out more about him. I think he is going to visit, but man, I'm just looking at this visitor list. Unbelievable.
I will say this. A couple of people have asked, and Cole, if I'm not mistaken, DeMarcus Riddick told you and a couple other people that he was visiting tomorrow.
Yeah.
From my intel, he was on the list and expected to, but there has been he might have wanted to come Friday instead.
Okay. Gotcha.
And so I no longer expect Riddick to be on campus tomorrow, Monday. But Friday is really don't get me wrong. There are still, without DeMarcus Riddick, there are still 5 top 200 players, 200 recruits coming, 3 of the top 100, the number 10 overall recruit in Jalen Mbakwe. He's the number 1 player in Alabama. Then you've got Kamarion Franklin, the number 1 player in Mississippi. Both of those guys are top 50. You got Bradley Shaw coming, who is a 4-star linebacker from Hoover. We've been waiting to see him visit. So you still got and Keith Jameer Grimsley, your boy down there at Tampa Catholic.
You muted, Keith.
Try the sign language, big dog.
There's two things we can count on: me screwing that up, and Jeff with a great Pete Sanchez reference. And other than that, I don't know what's going to happen. But Cole and I have been talking about this. The DB list. Now I don't know who they're going to get.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe they don't get their top guys. But what a hell of a list! He's from Miami all the way up to the Carolinas and over to Louisiana and Texas. I mean, so they're in it with a lot of guys. Grimsley, the kid you mentioned from Tampa Catholic who's visiting tomorrow, Jameer Grimsley, he had one offer on January 1st. I think he's over 24 now. I think FSU has kind of separated itself a little bit early because he's been there. He hadn't really been anywhere else. 6'3", 185, 190, and runs a sub 11 second 100. And that's, Jaden Lewis, Auburn's 4-star defensive back commit. He runs a 10.83 or ran a 10.83. So length, speed, all that stuff. But man, and then Jeffrey, you broke the news last week, or maybe it was the week before, that the defensive back committed to Georgia. Is it Jalen Hayward from Rockledge, Florida? Very good program. Ladarius Tennyson came from there. That he's going to be visiting soon too. Next Friday, in fact, I think. And man, it's just a stellar list of defensive backs. But we shouldn't be surprised with what Zach did by himself. Really, the last cycle.
Yeah.
He got some air support from McGriff at the end, and now you got the two working together. And wow,
Zach,
sorry.
What you jumping in here for?
We got a caller.
All right.
Hey.
Before we get to him, Zach just came in our private chat and said Auburn's tip-off for the Iowa game is Thursday at 5:50 p.m. Central Time. So we will be looking forward to that, covering that. Justin Hoganson and the group will be all over that. Take us to the phone, Zach.
4092. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Hey, it's Jhead from Mobile.
All right.
Jedi.
Oh, did you say? Oh,
Well,
Jedi.
two-part question. They could go hand in hand. But the first one is, I guess, omitting quarterback because we're looking pretty good right there. But what positional group do y'all feel the most comfortable with for us to be able to land either maybe the quality or quantity that we'll need this 24 class? And then what new addition to the staff do y'all see maybe being able to step up and be that next ace recruiter for Auburn?
Jedi, let me so you're wanting to know, like, when all the dust settles on this 2023 class, or is it 2023?
2024
class. I'm thinking basketball still with Aiden Holloway. 2024 class. So when the dust settles, you're saying what position group are we going to go? Damn, they hit a grand slam here, right? Is that kind of what you're asking?
Yeah, either that or even offensive line, just doing what we need to be able to compete as compared to the previous years. Just what exceeds maybe expectations we've seen the last couple of years.
Okay. Fair enough. What position group is going to exceed expectations? And the second one was, who's going to be the next up-and-comer recruiter on Auburn staff, if I'm not mistaken, Jedi?
That's it.
Okay. I've got my up-and-comer. Does anybody have a position group, Cole?
Yeah, I'm thinking DB. I'm thinking safety and corner. I'll group them together, just defensive back class once again, because I have evidence that I know that Zach Etheridge has done well there before. I have evidence that Wesley McGriff has done well as a recruiter. Put them together, should be good again. And by the way, just real quick, if you're looking at a position, obviously they have a pretty good, defensive backfield right now on the team, so they can be a little more selective. And you got 2 4-stars committed, Jaden Lewis and Amon Lane. So everything they've done with the portal, what they really want to do is get every position that way, obviously, and then recruiting becomes you become a lot more selective, and you can that's the goal for every position group. Right now, you only have one that's that way, to be honest.
Jump in here. I've got mine, and they both coincide with each other.
I'll go last.
Mine does too, and it's Marcus Davis, and it's the wide receiver group. I think you're going to say, damn, when it's all said and done. I firmly believe with the way Hugh Freeze is going to try to utilize wide receivers in this offense. With Marcus being a young, hungry recruiter and the need, I think you're going to be able to sell a lot at that position. And I think when it's all said and done, you're probably going to be looking at 2, maybe 3, 4 stars in this class. And it's going to be one that Marcus Davis is going to be able to stamp his name on moving forward and say, okay, similar to Zach 2 years ago, when he pulled J.D. Rim and Austin Osbury, and he was able to kind of piggyback off that success moving into the 2023 class. And you saw the success he had this year. I think Marcus Davis is on that ascension, and you're going to be able to say, damn, when he gets done this year. That's how I feel about it, particularly with getting an assist from Hugh Freeze in this class.
I completely agree. That should be an easy sell for Marcus.
Yes.
Keith, what you got, big dog?
I'm going to go way from these guys. I'm going to say people are going to be talking about the offensive line coach, Jake Thornton, and I think this is going to be the best offensive line class we've seen at Auburn in over a decade.
Woo!
I think they've got the top. I think they've got the guy that people think is maybe a top 2 or 3 young offensive line coach in the country. Now, the only thing with this now is he may be a guy that NFL teams come after in a year or two. So that's something. If he's on this rocket ship. Sometimes I get the ship word wrong when I talk too fast, but rocket ship to the moon. And they're in it with so many guys. I think it's going to be a lot of 4-star talent in this class on the offensive line with 3 to 4 tackles, and fill the needs with quality and quantity. And I think this guy is going to be a guy everybody's going to be thinking, man, this has been a long time coming. Because when and then again, all this is prefaced by the fact that Hugh Freeze is bringing in air support for all these guys. When he was at Ole Miss, he signed a couple 5-star offensive tackles, Greg Little and Laramie Tunzel. Well, Hugh Freeze wasn't the lead recruiter. I think Chris Kiffin was on Tunzel. I don't remember who was on Little. It might have been Kiffin as well. But you don't get those guys without Hugh Freeze, right?
Luke?
No, it was actually – but he was involved, obviously, but I believe Kiffin was the area and lead recruiter on at least one of those guys. I know he was on Tunzel. I know that for a fact because he was from Lake City, Florida.
And Little was from Texas, so I don't know who handled that area or not.
Yeah. They got some young stars, man. They really do.
It's a fantastic question, Jedi, because we've got 4 different answers here. Cole's got Zach and Crime. Jhead has got Marcus Davis. Keith is all over Jake Thornton. And then hold on.
Yeah.
What you gonna say, Cole?
I didn't really name my up and comer, actually.
Okay.
I know where he's going. I know what he's going to say.
I think we have the same one, so you go first.
I'm going linebackers.
Yeah.
Was Aldridge your dude?
Yeah,
that was mine.
But Jeffrey, we got 4 different answers, and we might all be wrong.
Correct.
And look,
they got other position groups that ain't bad.
Don't sleep on Jeremy Garrett either. I mean,
he would be next.
Look, you're right. I mean, Freeze hired young, and he hired aggressive recruiters that are looking to stamp their name right now. I mean, I think the only position coach, not non-coordinator, that he hired under the age of 50 was Crime. Crime's the only one that's above the age of 50. And in fact, I think everybody else is 40 or less.
What?
And I think Carnell is
under 30.
Yeah, Carnell is the oldest one, I believe, at 40, because Carnell and I are the same age.
Weird flex, but
hey, you know what?
So here's what I think, Jedi. I think linebacker, the need, the open spots, the lack of taking a high school kid this past class, and the huge priority is going to be in this class. And if Cole and I have noticed anything, Keith was there for that big junior day as well. Listen, I'm not saying Josh Aldridge works harder than anybody else on that staff, but I've seen him. I've seen him out front welcoming in everybody. I've seen how he does with these recruits and getting them in and making them feel welcome. I think Auburn's going to have a fantastic linebacker class. I think they're going to have a really, really good linebacker class. And I think by the time all the dust settles, people are going to say, who the hell is this Josh Aldridge guy?
Yeah, that's a good pick. I don't know about you guys. I love that. I'm getting off track. I love the staff. You got the 2 older guys that are coordinators. You also have special assistant to the head coach, Ken Austin, who's older and has more experience. You got this analyst like Kendall Simmons, who played in the NFL. And then you've got this young group. Yeah, Jeff said it perfect. It just hit me. Jeffrey's really encapsulated everything here. The young, hungry assistants. Those are the guys that get you guys. They're cutting their teeth, man. They ain't going to get here if they don't win the battles when they're here. Will Muschamp is here because when he was 30, he was out there kicking ass on the recruiting.
Busting ass, yep.
Kirby Smart, Mike Bobo, names that Auburn fans don't want to hear, obviously, but those guys were kicking tail out on the recruiting trail, and that their careers took off because of it. Dabo Sweeney, right?
Yeah.
That's what you guys are.
I was thinking, I'm just really excited to watch the duo of Philip Montgomery and Ken Austin. Like you just said, Ken Austin. You can give him some credit there for Walker White already being in the class. Now, what are they going to do in the second portal window? That will be interesting.
Cole, I think that's the question of the for the next 3 months. Man.
I just love that they served Jim and Nick's at the Big Junior Day on January 28th, and then that night I saw Ken Austin eating at Jim and Nick's. He couldn't get enough of it, man. He was.
Somebody take that man to dream.
Jeffrey, you were talking about the visitor list and how it seems like they kind of grow at the last minute. It's happened a few times now. It's like with the transfers. They just kept popping in, and we were like, man, and we're trying to get a hold of all these guys, and and I think we do a pretty good job, honestly, of catching a lot of names. But it's like they're recruiting so fast. They're getting these guys on campus and doing those things. It's happening with the high school guys too. It's just a lot, and they got a lot of names out there that they're bringing in, and it happens very fast. And
to me, one that gives you a good feeling like it could come down between us and Clemson is the DB out of Parkview that's going to be here, Jalen Crawford. I mean, I am really interested to see what that kid has to say coming out of this visit. I think that could be big right now.
Speaking of visit, Stark Bites wants to know who's coming in this week. Well, I'll tell you right now, Stark, tomorrow, Monday, these are the guys that are expected as of right now. Jalen Mbakwe, the five-star athlete from Clay Chalkville. He's committed to Alabama. He is expected to visit tomorrow. Jalen Crawford, Jhead just mentioned him, four-star cornerback, top 100 overall recruit, is coming in tomorrow. Casey Poe, who is at Georgia Tech today, he's making a little round trip through some southern schools. He'll be at Auburn tomorrow. Is expected to be. He is a top 10 inside interior offensive lineman. Dylan Hipp, big-time tight end from Arizona, is coming in. Jameer Grimsley, Keith talked about him earlier, a really up-and-comer at Tampa Catholic. Kamarion Franklin, the number one player in Mississippi. Bradley Shaw, the four-star linebacker from Hoover. And a couple of other guys, Jacarby Hobson, who's the number 2 player in Mississippi. Him and Kamarion Franklin both go to Lake Cormorant. I think I said that name right. And then a couple of other guys like Antonio White's coming with Jalen Crawford. Michael Bureau, whose dad I think played at Miami back in the 90s. He's coming in big time. He's a 3-star guy right now, defensive lineman. But Fridays is going to be big. Friday's going to be big because you got Walker White coming in, and we expect, I think, with this visitor list, has it been reported that they're definitely going to scrimmage Friday?
I believe that's correct, Jeffrey, that they are definitely scrimmaging Friday, or that's what I've heard referenced to this point. Now, who knows if it could be subject to change, but as of now, I believe that is going to be their first scrimmage.
Okay. So you're going to have a big deal. Might even be inside the stadium. Maybe that's why they want all these big timers there Friday afternoon, because Walker White's coming in, the 4-star quarterback commitment from Arkansas. He's coming in to recruit. KJ Bolden, the 5-star safety from Buford, is coming in. Jalen Hayward, Keith talked about him. Big-time safety from Rockledge, Florida, is coming in. He's committed to Georgia. Dylan Stevenson, Zach in the back, loves some Dylan Stevenson, coming up from Miami. Braylon Staley is coming in from South Carolina. Caleb Odom, top tight end from Carrollton. And then Colton Heinrich is coming from Coral Gables. And these are just the guys we know about. As Cole said, by the time Friday gets here, dude, this list could double in size. Now, one thing Keith and I learned from talking to A.K. Magula and the director of player personnel, and Kennedy Harvey, director of recruiting ops, a couple of weeks ago, is that they had that huge junior day back in January where it felt like everyone was overwhelmed. The recruits were overwhelmed. The coaches were overwhelmed. The staff, the recruiting personnel, everybody was overwhelmed. They don't want to do that again. So they're going to try to keep it as manageable as possible. So you want to divide these up. You don't want everybody coming back for A-Day and 100 recruits coming for A-Day and everybody not getting their face time. So you want to try to, hey, let's give them an A-Day environment on the field at least. Get them here. where it'll be a much more personal Friday afternoon if you're scrimmaging inside Jordan Hare. So big week start. Go ahead, Keith. Big week start.
Yeah, you know who does a great job of keeping things tight is Clemson. And it's worked for them, obviously. You know what I mean? They're not just bringing anybody and everybody and throwing out offers left and right. So nothing about being selective.
And JP wants to know, is Mbakwe someone to watch moving forward? Do you think it's a long shot? I still think it's a long shot.
I think it's a long shot, but I do think he's going to be back again.
This is me starting to track him. Like I haven't even I know who he was. I know where he's ranked. I know he's committed. And I was like, well, get to Auburn, and then I'll start paying attention if I'm an Auburn fan. You know, and if he does show up tomorrow, maybe you start paying attention.
I made a trip to Clay Chalkville last about a month ago, I think, where they have several guys, which is where Jalen Mbakwe plays. Mario Craver, Jaquan McCroy, DJ Barber, all these guys, right? They're all in the same class over there. And I wasn't able to get an interview with Jalen Mbakwe, but I did bump into him as he was going to class. And you know, I asked him if he was going to visit Auburn. He said, oh, yeah, a few times.
Oh, okay.
At least that's just hearsay. That's what he says. But we'll see. We'll see. He's got one now. He's got to take official visits at some point. I've heard that it's possible Auburn could get one of those. We'll see. It's up in the air, but interesting thing there that he's coming in this weekend, I think.
I wouldn't get your expectations up, JP. Honestly, with any of the commitments from Alabama. I mean, Keith, we've read this book many times. You know, is the staff different? Can they get over that hump? We don't know. But until they do, temper those expectations. I mean, we're going to cover the shit out of their recruitments. Don't get me wrong. We're going to cover it. If they're there, we'll report it. We're going to report it just as Auburn has just as good a shot as anything else. But I always take cautious optimism with that.
Kind of an interesting schedule that Auburn's got, where they're not practicing on the weekends,
right,
during the spring, and that's really the best time to get kids. You would think to get kids on campus. So I don't know. It's interesting. I'm sure they have their reasons. But I do know down in Florida, a lot of schools are on spring break starting tomorrow. Mm-hmm. And so that's probably – you're seeing a lot of Florida kids are going to be coming up this week. And I know it's not the only state that's – but so maybe they think that if they just plan it during the week, a lot of these kids are going to be off the next 3 weeks, and maybe it works out better that way than having – I don't know.
It's really – okay, so Auburn took their spring break this past week. The coaches didn't have any visits. They didn't really miss anything because kids were in school. So, but starting this week, I mean, Auburn City schools were out, but other than that, you look at Casey Poe coming from Texas, Dylan Lip coming from Arizona. Over the next 3 weeks, those are when schools historically take their spring break. So over the next 3 weeks, so you're not competing against Alabama and Georgia and Florida State for those Saturday visits. You're getting these kids in on Monday and Wednesday and Friday.
Smart.
I thought it was brilliant. Once you step back and look at how they're going about it, no weekends to compete with anybody except for the 8A game, and you've already got most of your guys, if not all your guys, to visit before then. Now you're just trying to get them back.
Jeffrey, how many years did we sit out in front of the Auburn complex, and they were waiting for a kid to come down from Tuscaloosa, but he was in Tuscaloosa for the first part of the day, and that trip just kind of never ended.
I have a car trouble.
You and I'd be sitting there waiting for the kid to show, and it'd be 3 o'clock and 4 o'clock and 5 o'clock, and then the assistants would leave, and we knew that they weren't coming. And I mean, that happened time and time and time again. So I never thought of that. You guys probably onto something here.
I before we go any further, good stuff. Oh, Neek wants to know any information on 2025 Antoine Hill. Jhead or Cole, are anybody familiar with him?
Yeah,
I know he's a stud from Mississippi.
No, it's South Georgia.
South Georgia.
Houston County.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Keith's been all over this recruitment, and he's the younger cousin of the former offensive lineman at Georgia, correct, Keith?
Oh, yeah, Trey Hill.
Yeah.
Trey Hill, strike him in the face. I mean, I don't think we have anything new. I mean, he attended the junior day, January 28th at Auburn. He's going to take more visits this spring. It's pretty early in his recruitment, but we know Auburn's offered him. We know that actually, I can't remember. Have they offered him?
Yes, they offered him at the junior day.
That's right. They offered him a junior day. We know that look, the guy put up big numbers last year. He's got the height they're looking for. He's got Auburn's going to recruit him, but that's about all we know at this point.
I think he's one of 2 2025 quarterbacks that we've offered to go along with the kid from Saraland, and I cannot remember his name, Ryan Williams' teammate Cole.
KJ Lacey.
There you go.
Well, and then over the weekend, it was reported that George McIntyre, the quarterback up in Tennessee, whose grandfather is the former Vanderbilt head coach, was wearing had an Auburn towel at some event. And I think he might be the top rising junior in the state of Tennessee. So we just don't know where the 2025 quarterback board is right now. We're going to go evaluate these guys during the spring, and then they're going to see how they do in the fall. And at that point, probably unless it's a no-brainer, hey, this guy's the guy. If he wants to commit, we'll take him right now. They'll probably, quite frankly, take their time on that. Build relationships with a handful of guys, and then either after this spring, after a guy camps this summer with Ken Austin and Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery, at that point they could say, okay, let's go all in on this guy. Once they identified Walker White, a month later he was committed, really. So,
let's see here. Do we take 2 running backs and 5 offensive linemen? Buddy Colt wants to know. Zach, do you have a call?
No, there was a question about a player who I'm real familiar with coming up after this one, so I just hopped in.
Two running backs, yes. 5 offensive linemen, I would expect at least. Anybody disagree?
I think probably 4 from high school and at least 2 from the portal.
That's ideal, right? That would be the ideal minimum, I guess you would say.
I loved. All right, Zach, jump in here, big dog.
Yeah, I was going to let you guys talk about Peyton Lewis, Auburn interest. I know he is one of the top running backs on Tennessee's board. They want him bad. I mean, he was just at junior day last weekend, and he's probably one of the top running backs on their board, and they love his speed. And and listen, Heupel thinks he can fit multiple positions, and this is a kid who can do track, football, and he was an all-state punt, kick returner, and running back last year out of Salem, Virginia.
Where the witches are. Peyton Lewis, that sounds good to me, Zach. Legit shot. Has he visited Auburn? Did you say?
That's not a guy we've been tracking.
I actually started texting with him today, so I'm gonna try to figure it out with him.
I've seen him on Twitter. I saw the Tennessee love from Twitter. I've seen a lot of schools showing some love to him. I have not seen the Auburn love yet. So, Eric, I am he's not on my top target list to track right now, and not because he's not good. Obviously, he's really good, but I don't know where if Auburn is.
I think there's a pretty good chance he's going to visit. That's what I'm trying to figure out from him right now. But I think there is a chance he's going to visit.
He just got offered on the 21st from Auburn, like February.
Okay.
Yeah. And as of now, I think he's got visits set to South Carolina, Virginia Tech, Nebraska, Ohio State, and North Carolina. All of those unofficial at this point. And so it looks like he's still relatively early in his recruiting process and still trying to kind of find his way. So hopefully you do get a visit.
Pretty underrated state for talent, too. And he's from Salem. Like the bulk of the talent's either up by D.C. or in the 757, which is Norfolk and Newport News and Virginia Beach, I guess the other big city over there. He's from Salem, which is only an hour, 15 minutes from Lynchburg, which was where Liberty was. So I'm sure there's some familiarity there.
Some good liquor over there, too. Hey, Blake R. First of all, let me Marcus Dean in the chat. I once saw Jay Lee get a Dewey on a lawnmower dressed in drag. I was wondering who that was in the bushes with a VCR recorder.
Yeah.
Blake Robinson, what do you guys think of the current players and Tank tweeting support for TJ at quarterback? I love it. Is there smoke that he's really that improved and could be QB1? We all have been assuming he's gone after this spring. I still think he's gone after this spring, Blake. But, listen, I just don't think he's going to win the starting quarterback job. And if he doesn't win the starting quarterback job, I don't think he stays. But I think it's great that everybody's supporting him. That's his buddy. That's their boys.
Agreed.
Yeah, that's good.
Look, you would want teammates to come out and support another teammate, right? Regardless of what's going to happen at that position and how that competition rolls out. You always want to see, and to my understanding, minus some of the mental health situation that TJ went through last fall, all accounts are he's a pretty good kid. You know what I mean? He's always been well spoken. He's always represented Auburn pretty well, minus that little scooter situation or whatever that was with the Auburn PD.
I had the lawnmower incident.
There you go. But, I'm glad Tank is showing TJ some love. I hope TJ does play well. I honestly do. Do I believe he's going to be the starting quarterback next year? No, I don't. But I hope that he proves me wrong.
Sure.
If we're being completely, I hope the kid plays fantastically.
If we were betting on a starting quarterback for next year, regardless of the circumstance of why they're the starting quarterback or not, I wouldn't put my money on him personally.
There you go.
Right.
I hear you. This is what I wanted to talk. Hey, there was a real quick back on basketball recruiting. Luke AU today on the corner of our message board on Auburn Live wanted me to talk about. Let me get. As I mentioned earlier, Auburn's 2023 class has Aiden Holloway. He has signed. Don't think of any other movement there in that class. 2024 obviously is a big year for Auburn. They've got 3 commitments: Peyton Marshall, LeBaron Philon, Tahad Pettiford, all committed to Auburn right now. And it's kind of been a standstill. But Luke, you want to know, can you give us a brief update on next year's basketball recruiting? Particularly would be interested in your thoughts of Auburn's chances with Flory Badunga. Flory Badunga is a top 10 overall recruit in the 2024 class. Justin Hokanson has mentioned a couple of times on our message board that there is a possibility of him reclassifying to the 2023 class. And if so, that would be good news for Auburn, be able to add a guy like that to Aiden Holloway, who they only have one. But I would say right now, Luke, the top competition for Flory, although I would say this, I think Auburn has a good chance. I think Auburn is a major factor in his recruitment. Bruce Pearl is spearheading this recruitment. He's the guy who's at the forefront. So you think Bruce Pearl wants this kid? Absolutely. Biggest competition for him, I'm told, is Florida. Always have to keep an eye on Cincinnati, Indiana, and Purdue. They're all in there as well. But I think I think it's fair to say this is kind of an Auburn with Florida.
Interesting from the Todd Graham angle.
There you go.
With Todd being the former protege to Bruce. So that'll be an interesting battle for sure.
Yeah. Hey, we need
Todd
some more.
Todd Golden, not Todd Graham.
Former Bruce assistant at Auburn, if I'm not
yes.
mistaken. Good dude. I remember covering him. Let's get a couple more callers in for the next 20 minutes. Phone lines are going to be open. Give us a call, 701-779-9585. Wanted to hear from Edward down in Selma, see if them crappies biting. I caught a couple this weekend. T. Moultrie, how many high school recruits are we taking this year, Keith? Oh, Keith's taking a slam. Oh.
I'm back. You throw the hard one to me. No, I don't think we know yet, to be honest with you.
I have no idea.
It's year 2. We should point out, and again, this is sometimes you don't know because you're lazy. Sometimes you don't know because there's a lot of unknown variables. And one of the unknown variables this year is that for the second year in a row, the NCAA is going to allow you to sign as many as you want to make up for that lost COVID stuff. You can sign as many as you want as long as you don't go over 85 total. We don't know how they're going to split it up. A lot of that's going to depend on what they see this spring, because there's going to be guys that are on the team right now, firmly on the roster, that they're going to see stuff out of this spring and next fall, and they're not going to be on the team in year 2. That's just the way it goes.
Yeah.
And those guys and how you use their spots will be determined by how old they are. Now this guy's only got 1 year left. We can't take a high school guy. We need a transfer, so there's a lot of unknown variables there. I always just start with the around 25 and work my way up or down from there. Well, let's put it this way.
Yeah.
I don't think you need to worry too much about this, because with that NCAA rule, they're going to be able to do what they need to do, just like the last cycle. They're going to be able to do what they need to do, take as many guys at every position as they need, as long as they don't go over the 85. And there's ways to stay under to keep from going over, and that is to part ways with guys that aren't cutting it on the roster at this time, quite frankly.
Blake R., how many linebackers? Okay, inside, Jhead, you're kind of a numbers guy on this. I mean, listen. Typically, you're going to sign 2 inside, probably 2 outside. Probably going to be a bigger class than that. You got to have at least 2 jacks. Cole, do you disagree, Jhead?
No, I don't disagree. And Cole, I want to hear your thoughts here. The only issue is we're kind of log jammed in this junior class right now and this extra year of the COVID eligibility. So kind of how it corresponds or correlates to entries into the portal post spring and this fall, you could see that number grow some. I would suspect 2 to 3 on the inside and 2 definitely at the jack position. But Cole, how do you feel about it?
Well, I'm thinking back to the Monday I got to see the practice window, and I think there's a good bit of linebackers coming back at inside backer, but you're not going to have any jacks really. They're real low there, and Elijah McAllister will be gone after this year. My minimum is 3, but I think they could sign up to 5 total.
Yeah,
counting jack and inside backer.
I'd agree with that. I guess it depends on so you got Desmond Tisdale, who's technically a junior and could come back for another year. You got Wesley Steiner, who could technically come back. Riley could come back.
Mm-hmm.
Do they come back? Who knows? Who's the transfer from North Carolina? Technically has 2 more years.
Asante, yeah.
So
what was I'm forgetting what Keys was, but I think is he
Austin Keys has got 2 years left. So that's what I'm saying. You got 5 guys that all have 2 years left.
Yeah,
and Cameron Brown as well. Yeah,
Cameron Brown. Yeah, and Tolan's a young guy. Robert Woodyard's a young guy.
Right.
You still have Powell Gordon's a young guy.
What do they do with him? Do they move him outside to jack? Do they keep him inside? I think
several guys, right?
So it all depends to me on attrition and how many of those guys realize they are not going to see the field and they decide to enter the portal, and that could cause your number to escalate greatly.
Right. Which is why that previous question that Keith, was answering, the numbers of how many they're going to take. I think that stays TBD until like the last couple of weeks, honestly, with the portal and all that. There's just no way. There's no way to.
It definitely won't be a small class.
No, I don't think so. I'd say 23 or more is my prediction as of today.
I think that's what
I was doing a numbers crunch today, kind of looking at position by position. What do I think we need from the high school class? Now, obviously, the portal class is separate from every projection that I'm making, because I think you're going to take another 10 portal transfers. If we're being completely honest, I think that they're going to need to raise the floor in a couple of other rooms. But I'm guessing 24, Cole. That was when I did the numbers, and I'm going to have a better breakdown on this on the board. But by position grouping and kind of the experience you could be losing at each spot, I think you got room for 24 high school and junior college signees in this upcoming class.
No.
Chase Woods wants to know, Walker White climbs to a 5-star with a big senior season? I don't think so.
That's hard.
I think it's a possibility he gets close, but I don't think he'll cross that threshold.
Dude, you got to jump 100 spots. Well, I just don't see that happening.
The only thing I would say is I talked to Charles Power, the On3 director of scouting, and he does all our rankings last weekend in Florida, and I asked him the same thing. How high could he go? That kind of stuff. He said, he's got the arm talent. Okay. He's big. So he's got the prototypical body, 6'3 plus, big arm strength, and he can run. That's the get out of jail free card is what Charles said. So he can do that. So what could get him up there? Why is he only ranked where he's ranked? Well, because he's never completed more than 54% of his passes. So I'm looking at it as a lot of Auburn fans are probably thinking he should be ranked higher. He's getting slighted. I'm looking at it as, hey, man, we must really like this guy if he's only completing 54% of his passes. And now, look, there's drops and all that. But guess what? At the high school level, every quarterback's dealing with drops, okay? So what if he goes up to 62 to 64%? Looks good this spring in Elite 11, has a solid summer on that circuit too, gets on their radars, and then goes out and completes 65% of his passes this fall. I'm with you, Jeffrey. I don't think he can get that high, but I wouldn't rule out top 50, top 75 with a significant increase in completion percentage.
And you just laid the path for that, Keith. It starts with we all know, and look, it's flag football. It doesn't really matter in real life, but how he does on the Elite 11 circuit and in the camp circuit will affect his ranking.
It will some.
How he handles the fall and does that completion percentage, and then the All-Star season. How does he compete when you get the best of the best in the U.S. Army All-American game? does he raise his stock there as well? That's the path forward to him doing it. But I'm with Jeffrey and with you and probably with Cole here on this. That's such a hard thing to go from where he is right now to inside the top. What it's 30. Is it 35 stars that On 3 has, or is it 32?
I think it may be 32.
Yeah.
They do it for the same number of first round picks. Isn't that right?
Now, here's the thing. So in Elite 11, he could skyrocket, and it is just in shorts, but that could get him on the radar at least. Okay, if this guy, the next step is we love what we've seen. Now, if he goes out and does it in the fall, he could skyrocket there. But the downside of that is if completion percentage is a problem, or not a problem, if his completion percentage hasn't been that high the last couple seasons, is it not going to be high at Elite 11 either? You know what I mean?
It depends on how much. Yeah, it depends on how much is scripted and the kid knows and has a relationship with the receivers, because all that plays a factor.
People like him. They think he's got a lot of, and not only that, kind of throw in one more thing, Jeffrey. They think Charles Power thinks he's perfect for what Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery and Ken Austin like to do. Now it's going to be a meshing of their offenses, but
which that's more important anyway.
Yeah, and the fact he goes, hey, look, I think the guy, he thinks the guy could play in year one because he can run, because he can again get out of jail when things break down, and so we'll see.
Which is also why, even though TJ Finley and Robbie Ashford have similar stats, Ashford gets the nod because he can run.
Yeah,
I will say this. I don't know if I'm playing devil's advocate or not, but I know. Listen, I haven't watched. I watched Walker White's film. I watched Air Nolan's film, the 4-star quarterback from Langston Hughes. When the new rankings came out, Air Nolan, Chase, if those two guys were swapped in the rankings, which people that know a lot more about it than I do, looked at both of these quarterbacks and belly laughed till it hurt that Air Nolan was On 3's number 45 overall player, about 15 spots from a 5-star. He's the number 4 quarterback in the country. And nobody else thinks he's that good. 24/7 Sports has got him in the top 150. Rivals has him in the top 250. And listen, maybe Air Nolan wins the Heisman in 3 years. I don't know. But I'm telling you that people who know quarterbacks a lot better than I do think Walker White would work circles around Air Nolan. And maybe it's the type of offense and the system they go into.
Sure.
But if he was going to go for a 5-star, he would have to be in that position, in the 45 to 50 to 60 range. He's not. I'm going to be personally following these two quarterbacks for the next 4 years. I want to see like Air Nolan is that guy that people, even on our message board, they want Auburn to take him.
Yeah.
And I just don't think people that matter are very high on the kid. Obviously, Charles Power loves him. But he may be right. Who knows?
Well, Clemson and Alabama both offered him, but they offered him after Walker White made his move, or was making his move.
That tells me that Clemson's first option was Walker White. That tells me Auburn's first option was Walker White. Of the two, that tells me Alabama's first option was Walker White. On 3, however, has it, and it's not even close, that it's Air Nolan.
Actually, I think Clemson's first option might have been Lagway. Was it DJ Lagway?
DJ.
Yeah, down at Florida. He just committed to Florida.
I'm talking about between the two, Air Nolan and Walker White.
The same thing. But look, I mean, you can't deny that Air Nolan completed like 70% of his pass. Ridiculous statistics last year, playing at the highest level of competition in the state of Georgia for the best team in Georgia, by far the best team in Georgia. Now he had some great talent around him. So you're just trying to balance. Look, I'm glad I'm not the one.
Oh my gosh!
Remember when we used to be involved in that stuff?
Yes, God Almighty! I learned very quickly that I probably should just stay out of it.
Now all we have to do is say, "Here's Charles Powers' email." You shoot him a message, and
I'm done with it, dude.
So for the average, the average listener, I mean, if you guys don't know that, I mean, that's fine. Does the camps, like the Elite 11s, the Under Armour camps, matter more than the actual regular season? Just to receive competition, because you see some of these 1A guys with crazy stats, and they'll be a 3-star, 800th, overall player. So I mean, how does it all get balanced?
Well, in a nutshell, Zach, for me that'll be hard, but long-term physical ability is number one. long-term
Yeah.
physical ability, which means
Projection.
that's why NFL matters, because you're projecting long-term physical ability. So the piece of clay, right? And then, but you're factoring how good a guy is now and how good you can think how good you think he'll be. So I always tell everybody, sometimes the best offensive lineman on a high school team is 5'10", 260, but he ain't playing at Notre Dame. He's better than the guy next to him.
And he'll be first team All-State.
That's right. The guy next to him, though, 6'7", 290, and he's going to play at Notre Dame, even though you're better than him, because he's got the body that can get him there. How far can your body can take you is the most important thing. Now, for QB, you're putting in a lot of other things into the formula too. How does he do on Friday nights is huge. Is he smart? What kind of IQ does he have? Does he get in trouble? Zeke Pike had some issues, you know. I mean,
you know what? Jhead, you might remember this. I got out of the rankings debates and contributing when I pushed for Zach Kutch to get a 3-star. Do you remember this? Zach Kutch?
Yes, dude.
He was a kicker.
Details here.
He was the kicker.
I remember.
And he committed to Auburn, and it was like 2004 or 5, my first year working. I'm like, this guy's the #1 kicker in the country. How can he not be a 3-star?
Some of these ratings meetings, historically, now they have teams of people, but it used to be people like me and Jeffrey would help out, and they'd get heated. There's story. I'm not going to name any.
Yeah.
I'm not going to name any names. There's stories of guys literally quitting because they had a guy as a 5-star. Nobody else wanted a 5. Well, screw that. I'm out of here. What? You know, that's. I mean, people really. I just say
Friendships were lost over rankings, dude. Oh my God.
Hey, I'll tell you this, Zach, just from my perspective of getting to go to a couple of these camps now, and I haven't gotten to do what Jeffrey and Keith have gotten to do before. We don't do that, okay? I'm not involved, much to the regret of many recruits that I talk to. But
weird flex.
They always want to know, hey, how do I get a 4-star, man? I'm like, I don't know. Don't ask me.
You're better off not knowing, okay?
I have no idea, man. You know, be great.
Well, there you go.
But no, Zach, at these camps, you know, I was the guy that put a lot on game film, and I still do. But I understand now from going to these camps, hey, you get to see how each guy's body looks compared to the best players in the country. Mm-hmm. You get to see how he moves compared to the best players in the country. You can really tell who stands out when they're all together like that, just moving. It maybe a guy loses a rep in the one-on-ones on the offensive line, defensive line there, but you can tell his get off. You can see that he's long. You can see why he may have lost that rep, and it was not due to his talent or something like that. You see those things going on, and you go, okay, now I get it. That guy's he's got 4-star potential. There's no doubt.
You know, at junior day, Jeffrey, me, and Cole were out there real early, and we didn't know the faces with a lot of these guys. But you know what Jeff's trained eye and Cole's trained eye tells them? When a guy looks like Mr. Olympia, that's probably a guy I need to go up and ask his name, right? There is such a thing as passing the eye test. It does matter because Robert, I remember the first time I saw Robert Kimdichie, you got to be kidding me. Or I mean, a human doesn't look like DK Metcalf. Same way. I mean, there's just certain guys that look different.
And on the opposite end of the spectrum, Byron Coward.
You know who that guy was last year?
Yeah, he played in the NFL, though. He made it in the NFL.
That guy that caught all of our eyes last year, believe it or not, at Big Cat Weekend was Tyler Johnson, who ended up signing with Auburn.
Yeah.
Good gracious. Good gracious. That guy. I mean, he's got the OT look. There's no doubt.
I remember you texting us that, Cole.
I was like, good gosh.
Yeah.
That's why I ran up to Peyton Marshall on the field that day. I was like, wow. What's left or right tackle? And he was like, center.
Cole made a great thought about this camps, though. Sometimes a guy gets beaten a rep who's perfect, and he did everything right. And he lost to a much smaller guy across from him. Well, because you're not going to go up against a guy that size when you get to an Auburn.
Yeah.
Kind of like, have y'all ever played tennis with somebody that's so bad that they hit shots that you've never seen before?
Pete Sanchez.
Hey, he lobbed that one up for us in the game.
Not intentionally. But no, I mean, so, you'll see a guy that's the size of me beating a guy the size of Derek Brown at a camp because they're not used to going. They're used to going up against,
Yeah.
So
you're not blocking Rudy.
It's just another piece of the puzzle. But the game, and by the way, it's not just highlights. Cole will tell you this. He's a former coach. They don't just want to see highlights. They want to see your lowlights. What is your floor? Is your floor still way up here? And also, look, I'll just say the name. Auburn was recruiting Antonius Clayton, a 5-star linebacker a few years ago. I think he signed with Florida, never did anything. Florida, and then he transferred to Georgia Tech, I want to see.
Yeah, I think that sounds right.
Auburn quit recruiting him. They went to his game, and he was pouting. A good kid, but they didn't like the kind of the body language on the sideline, and all that stuff matters, man. Everything matters. It
absolutely does. That's a great point, Keith.
Yeah.
I would argue that the lowlights or the game film that are not highlights, or being at a guy's game and seeing how he plays every single play is the most important thing.
Cole, explain the difference between game tape or highlights and game tape.
Well, I'll just tell you from being at a lot of games here in the past year or so, I've seen guys who going in, I was like, all right, he's one of the top dogs. And then I come away like, man, he's like, he took a couple plays off here and there. He disappears in the game, doesn't make big impact here. But you watch his highlights, you go, well, that's a 5-star if I've ever seen one.
Yeah,
but
so you're watching his ceiling. Okay, all right. You're watching his ceiling. That's what you're seeing with these highlights, right?
Collection of his best plays.
Right.
All right, good. We got some late minute callers. We'll get to them, man. Three of them, Zach. Get us back on there, big dog.
5810. You're live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
Fellas, Anthony from Montgomery.
Hey, man. Oh, Anthony, finally joining us. What is on your mind tonight, Anthony?
Hold on, it's kind of stacking. Let me get it better. Can you fellas hear me now?
Sounds really good.
Gotcha.
How y'all doing tonight?
Good, Anthony. We're doing better now that you called us back, man. We've been missing you.
Yeah, I've been in the background listening.
Okay.
I'm ready to talk now.
All right.
Quick question. So, each of you guys, give me 2 guys that you feel have to separate themselves this spring, and I'll tell you my 2.
Well, you tell us your 2, Anthony. We'll take it from there.
Okay, so my first one is Damari Austin.
Okay.
I say that because they brought in Petit. I think he'll be a change of bet type of guy. Then they bringing in Cobb. Hunter gonna be the guy, and Cobb is the flashy recruit. So it's easy for Damari to be lost in the shuffle. I feel like he needs to separate himself. I think he'll get a chance to with Hunter. They're not gonna expose Hunter too much if they know what he's about. I think he'll get plenty of reps. And then the second guy is Cam Riley. I say Cam Riley because they brought in Austin Keys and Demario Tolan. And, when they bring in 2 guys, he hasn't separated himself so far. I know he went through injury, but he got to prove himself because I think Demario Tolan ready.
All right. Hey, that's good stuff, Anthony. Let's take it on the horn. We appreciate your call, big dog. We'll take it on the horn. Jhead, get us started. 2 guys who need to separate themselves.
2 guys with NFL talent, if they develop correctly this year, could be NFL draft picks. Jeremiah Wright, Jeffrey Imba. If those 2 hit,
good picks.
That changes the line of scrimmage for Auburn. To me, those are the guys that need to step forward.
Anybody else have any? I want Camden Brown to be the big play wide receiver that I think he can be. Cole, you laughing? You know I was going to say that, did you?
Love it.
He's going to separate himself, being that one, the go-to guy. Anybody else got anybody?
I'll say Javaris Johnson. I think it's with Auburn. Everybody knows Freeze loves those. I've mentioned this before. Loves those big guys, those big receivers. Perfect opportunity with the focus on those guys and Rivaldo Fairweather to have a dominant underneath guy like Ryan Davis was that one special year for Auburn. That'll be my guy. I'll just pick one.
I know he's new, but I want to see Dylan Wade lock down that left tackle.
Yeah.
Dylan Brooks at the Jack.
Ooh,
it's time to come with it. With how highly touted he was. That's a big position of need. It's going to be wide open. He's got to step into that role this year if Auburn's going to have someone. Because listen, there's some guys. Listen, me and Cole talked about it. That there's some young guys at Jack who can snatch a position real quick, and he can get lost in the shuffle.
True that. Good stuff, Anthony. Cole, you got somebody?
Yeah, I'm gonna say Malcolm Johnson at receiver because he was pretty big recruit, and we've seen flashes of him where you go,
Sure.
that's good hands, big guy. You know, maybe it's time for him to step up and make a name for himself. And then Nehemiah Pritchett's my other one.
Okay.
I think he's it's either go big or go home this year for him.
No
Okay.
doubt.
I like it. Zach, keep us going. Good stuff, Anthony. We appreciate you call, big dog.
5960. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
What's going on, fellas?
What's up?
Oh, Edward, what's up?
My man.
Hey.
Oh yeah. How y'all guys doing tonight?
We're doing great, Edward, man. How you been doing, big dog?
Oh man, I'm good, man.
All
Good.
right. You sound good.
Oh yeah. I was looking at Tank comments on TJ Finley, and that really made me think about things. You know, I've been on the holding train and I'm still with him.
Okay.
But I think Finley been put in a bunch of bad situations to
I'd agree.
I don't think his talent really been able to show. I think he's a lot better than what a lot of people assume. LSU,
Yeah.
the team he was on, they had lost everything. His top receiver didn't even play that year. I mean, he wasn't expecting to start. He come to Auburn, both knees get hurt, get thrown into the fire. We all know how bad an offensive line we've been had last 3 years. I'm just curious if you could get Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery and Keith Austin working with TJ Finley. That's an intriguing thought.
If they can't do it, nobody can, right?
Yeah.
I mean, the pass that TJ Finley made in the Iron Bowl 2 years ago to Landon King, I ain't seen many college quarterbacks make that pass that he made. If you get that kind of consistency out of TJ Finley.
And Cole can speak to this better than I can.
Got a leg up on everybody in the competition with the experience that he had being in different systems. So I just want to hear y'all thoughts on that.
Okay, fair enough, Edward. We appreciate you, big dog.
All right, man.
So we saw what the high school, I mean the on-3 scouts and rivals and 24/7. Those throws that he made in the Iron Bowl are the reason he was a 4-star wide receiver, recruited by every major power, five SEC school coming out of high school. He signed with in-state LSU. That's why he had a lot of high expectations when he transferred to Auburn, because he can make throws like that. And it's kind of like a circular conversation but then you want to put in the game tape and see what his down plays are, his bad plays are, his floor. His floor is really low. But like Edward said, is that because he's got a shitty offensive line? Suspect wide receivers.
It's a really interesting subject. We could make a whole show out of.
Yeah, we really could.
Don't Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery and Ken Austin like guys that can at least give you the ability to run?
Yeah,
I would say traditionally speaking,
that's one mark against them.
Though Tulsa had a relatively successful offense throwing the football last year with a quarterback that wasn't overly mobile. So
you also don't have that kind of pass rush in that conference either, though, right?
I wouldn't think so. Not in the AAC. I don't think you're going to see the same level of pass rusher that you're going to get in the SEC.
See,
I think. Go ahead, Cole.
You were going first. Go ahead, Jhead.
I think TJ Finley is absolutely beautiful to watch in practice. Okay, when he's not affected by the pocket. When you just ask him to throw very fluid, just asking him to throw the football and do what he does best. Got an absolute cannon for an arm.
Smooth.
But when he gets into games and he has to make decisions, that is the hard part that I see Edward with saying, yes, he has the capability to be a star quarterback or just a productive quarterback in the SEC. Now, does he have the ability to flip a switch? TJ is still young. I mean, I think when he first starting at LSU, he was 17. Maybe he was freshly turned 18. I think he's just now 20. Maybe he can flip a late switch. You just don't typically see it at the quarterback position. Fair. When you have as many game reps as he has at this point, either you've produced or you haven't. Because he's got a full – I mean, He's got 5 games at LSU. He got another, 5 games at Auburn his second year, and then 4 games until he got injured against Penn State. Or no, I guess 3 games because Penn State was the 3rd game of the year. Another 3 games. So he's got a full season worth of reps. And it just, at no point have I looked at that and thought, TJ's it, man. That's where we need to settle in at. That's the quarterback that we need to build around. Could he be that guy? Sure. It's possible. I just haven't, there's not enough proof of concept for me to sell out and say, yeah, absolutely, TJ can be the guy. And with that, I'm going to turn it to Cole because I know you had a thought on this.
Yeah, I agree with Edward that I don't think he's always been in the best situation at Auburn. I don't think anybody has it. Even Bo Nix was in some pretty bad situations at Auburn. Okay, that's definitely going on. You got to improve offensive line. You got to improve at receiver and improve a lot of things to be able to get a quarterback in a comfortable place more often than not. Whereas we haven't seen that at Auburn in the last few years. Well, honestly, I think that TJ's problems are right in line with Robbie's problems. I think they have the same problem, which is what you said, Jhead. It's making decisions, reading progressions, doing things that you really don't do as much on the high school level. Maybe you showed on the high school level that you had all the tools, but when you get to the next level and you have a much more diverse playbook, route concepts, things of that nature, you're going to struggle because you've never done it. Some people, it's sink or swim, right? Some people are really good at it. They pick it up pretty quick, some quarterbacks. Others, it's never in their game for whatever reason. I haven't seen any proof for either of those 2 guys that they can do that consistently yet. And because of that, I am worried about the Auburn quarterback situation very much.
Yeah.
No matter who, if it's TJ or Robbie. And I don't even care if you've improved at receiver, offensive line. To me, that is a very big red flag.
I couldn't agree more. And it's the inability to layer throws at the same time, Cole. Like every throw is the same for them. There's not that ability to put touch on it and or to throw it to differing points on the field with various velocity. But the decision-making is the biggest piece, and you touched on that. It's the reads and progressions.
The throw that Edward mentioned to Landon King, can he make that throw? Absolutely. Can Robbie Ashford make the throw he made in the Iron Bowl to over the shoulder to Javarius Johnson? Yeah, he can make it. That's not the problem. It's not the physical part. It's the mental part. Can he make that decision consistently?
Yes, consistency.
No, they haven't been able to yet.
Right.
The answer is no. Maybe they fix that. Maybe the new coaches can fix it. We can see about that. I don't have a lot of hope on that, but I hope I'm wrong.
And to the point you just made, in the interview that Keith and Jeffrey did with Hugh Freeze, and then I think Keith wants to jump in here. I know he does. The first 2 things that he said what he looks for in a quarterback, consistency and accuracy. Those were the 2 things he hit on before we even got down to arm strength or anything else, but it was consistency and accuracy. And those are the 2 things that the quarterbacks in our room have struggled with for the last 2 years. Now, as part of that, and Cole, we mentioned the offensive line and the wide receiver core didn't take a step forward. Look, man, the whole offense under Brian Harsin was discombobulated completely. There was not a clear vision or direction with regard to that offense. It was a mismatch of ideas both years. So hopefully we've corrected that issue, having Hugh Freeze and Philip Montgomery both reading from the same sheet of music. That in and of itself gives us the opportunity to be more productive at quarterback.
What worries me a little bit too, Jhead, and then I'll end it right here, is with an RPO heavy system that Hugh Freeze wants to do. I don't care if you're a runner or not. You have to make decisions as an RPO quarterback.
Yes.
Forget the running part. Forget the option part. That's just one of the options, okay? The other 2 are either handing it off or throwing it to somebody that may be a tight window or something like that. And it's a quick decision, sometimes pre-snap.
Yes.
That's a lot, man. That's a lot for guys who have struggled with decision-making. That makes me nervous.
Got a good point. Zach, you got one more for us?
Oh, we got 3.
Okay.
They just keep coming. 2622 live. Who we talking to? Where you calling from?
This is the coach from Phoenix City.
All right. Been waiting to hear back from Coach.
Hello, Mr. Coach.
Everybody doing all right tonight?
Yes,
You know
sir.
what? I'm going through all these lists, Coach. Still not seeing Cam Coleman on there.
Okay.
Is something wrong with your
look,
car?
I will say something about Cam Coleman. He is the total package as an individual, as a student, and as a player of the game, and he takes no plays off. You will get maximum effort from him on every play. That's what I want to say about Cam Coleman.
Okay.
I totally agree, Coach. I was at the IMG game last year, and he was the best player on the field, in my opinion.
Yeah, he's a terrific kid.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
And I'll get back to him, but I want to say something about quarterback for a minute. That is a cerebral position when you get in major college football.
Yeah.
Many guys have talent. They can make the throws, but can they make the throws consistently with pressure? And our guys have been consistently inaccurate.
Consistently inconsistent.
That is correct.
Yeah.
Now, is that going to change with an improved offensive line and a new scheme and a little work with I think we're really quarterback heavy with coaching with the guys we've got, Hugh Freeze and Austin and Montgomery. I really think this is the chance. It's going to be sink or swim for those guys. And we'll see real quick. I think just watch the transfer portal. See if we have to jump on somebody pretty quick and hard.
I agree. Well,
He will tell you by the way he reacts with the transfer portal.
Yeah.
Biggest storyline
As
of the
far as Tim
offseason.
Coleman goes, let me tell you, I just feel real good about the orange and blue with him.
All right.
And I hope I'm going to be taking him out for a fried catfish this week. One of my kids that I train is down there at Central Florida. Keon Cox is coming back into town, and going to get him and Cam together, and maybe TJ Parker, and go out and get some fried catfish.
Ooh,
nice.
Ooh,
I do have something personal for Jeffrey. I did want to tell you, Jeffrey, something I like about you. I'm a bow hunter and a fly fisherman.
Oh. And you like
And
Cam
with that,
Coleman?
you guys have a good evening. Jeffrey, maybe I'll see you at Hugh Freeze's coach clinic.
Yeah. If you'll let me in, I'm there.
Throw in Camden Brown, and it's the trifecta there, Jeffrey.
There you go.
Yeah.
Coach, we appreciate your call, man. Keep checking in with us, man. We always appreciate you listening. We appreciate you calling in.
6179, you're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from? 6179, you're live.
Jeffrey, guys, how are y'all doing?
Doing well, man. What's your
Very
name?
Wes. I'm from Mobile.
Cool. Wes from Mobile.
Wes.
What's on your mind tonight, Wes?
I just wanted to tell you guys that, as much as y'all are talking about the quarterback and the offensive line and everything, this kind of brought me back to the Tuberville years. And something that kind of brought me to there was, the quarterbacks may have been here or miss. I know we had Jason Campbell and Brandon Cox, and those two are apples and oranges when you look at it. But the one thing that Tuberville knew how to do was dominate the line of scrimmage. That's why he got all these great offensive line and defensive line. He knew how to mix the 4- and 5-star talent with the 3-star guys, and I think that's what the good teams know how to do. I know there's so much pressure on quarterbacks and everything, but when you don't mix all those talents well with the certain players on the roster, then it's just not going to work. And I think that's kind of where Hugh knows where to make a difference is, because you can bring all these blue collar, maybe 2-3-star guys, but it's still it's kind of tough to build a team when you have all those other teams stacked against you. Like that's what Lane figured out with Ole Miss.
Mm.
And even Kirk Ferentz, to his credit, even though, the 7-5 teams are everything, that's the one thing Iowa knew how to pull out and churn out were offensive line, tight ends. They knew how to recruit everywhere. And I think that's the big challenge of recruiting in the SEC, especially with Oklahoma and Texas coming into the neighborhood.
Mm. Good stuff, Wes. I will say this, man. Auburn's last 2 coaches got fired partly because of recruiting. Tubbs never had a problem. There was no complaints with his classes, were there?
Except for the last one. When the wheels started to come off.
Yeah, when they signed Cole Pinkston to play offensive tackle, I knew there was some issues.
He's a developmental guy. Good stuff, Wes. I completely agree, man. I think that's a fantastic call, fantastic point. We appreciate that big time. Zach, you got one more? Last call.
One more. 4092. You're live. Who we talking to? Where are you calling from?
Oh, Jedi.
Again.
Hey, it's Jedi again.
Good stuff, Jedi. Hey, you got it started, now get a finish it.
All righty. So I hate to be this guy, but I'm going to ask about the kicker. In spring practice, have y'all gotten to see Alex McPherson kick at all? And I'm wondering if his leg is as big as it's hyped up to be.
Cole, you had 20 minutes the first week. Did you see any listen, if you were watching the kicker in the 20 minutes, you probably won't last long in this business.
I only wanted to see the kickers, so that's what I want.
You were charting the kicks of McPherson.
Yeah, right. I took a notepad.
Forget the quarterbacks over there and the offensive line. I got McPherson.
No,
it's a fair question though, Jedi.
I saw him on my way out. I actually saw him and Oscar Chapman, and I was like, between those two guys, yes. The hype is correct for Alex McPherson, and I think Oscar Chapman is an NFL punter too.
Can I say something about Alex McPherson? What's he, 5'9", 5'10", 160 pounds, something like that?
5'7", 5'6".
About a fucking 5 soaking wet, yeah.
He's like, remember Sean Shivers was 5'6", but when he walked in a room, he was the alpha male of the room?
Yeah.
Alex McPherson is supremely confident, okay? He is a confident young guy. And I don't think that I think he's going to have the perfect mentality out there, like a pitcher, starting pitcher. You give up a home run, I've already forgotten about it. 10 seconds later, I think he's that kind of guy. And man, gosh, he kicked enough last year for us to see what kind of leg he had, right?
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big time.
He's got a big leg. He's 55 and
it's
maybe more.
And it's only going to get stronger because he's just a little guy, or was when he arrived at Auburn. He's growing still.
Something about, even though he's a small guy, something about the torque he has when he plants that foot, he can, he just lays into it. He's got that quick twitch like that. I mean, he's an athlete. He's not just a kicker.
It's the same reason that 5'9" Rory McIlroy can hit 350-yard drives. It's the same torque principles between all the great kickers. Al Del Greco, they make great golfers. They just do. Same principles.
Huh. My only qualm with McPherson is he big timed me his senior year.
Oh yes,
I was waiting.
Have I told this story before?
Only
privately, yes.
Maybe not here, but
a kicker ought to be emailing me his stats. Damn sure better be answering my text messages. God dang.
Hey, confidence is everything.
Yeah, Keith, that goes right along with what he's big timing me.
Yeah, didn't he?
Come on, he said let the big dog eat, baby. Don't even worry about it.
Oh, McPherson. I'm gonna call him on it one time.
What a great run of kickers. Auburn's had. I mean, golly.
I know. I don't know if this has been shared or not, but I know that Hugh Freeze likes to get in his ear when he's kicking. You can actually see it. I think Auburn put out a video from practice.
Oh,
you can see him talking to him and going something like, "I'm going to name you the MVP today" to the media. He likes to stand right there, like almost in his path, and just talk to him and try to get him to, distract him while he's kicking or he's in his motion. it's kind of like talking while you're in your backswing or something. There,
Is that Hugh Freeze golf champion?
It is.
Yeah, so he's
co-champion.
Yeah,
And his other co-champion used to do the same thing to the kickers when he was here. So,
yeah. And Pat Dye was a little more harsh than that, but
yeah.
he used to, his big thing was like, we've given you your own field and you're going to miss kicks. You have your own field. How are you missing kicks for me? You know? Love it.
All right, let's see. Last one. Clayton Kennedy wants to know, can Auburn take a cornerback in the portal to get some more experience in that room to go along with DJ and Pritchett? Because if one of them go down, you're really left with freshmen and sophomores. That is not one of the positions that Hugh Freeze mentioned. Was it?
No, but he didn't mention edge either, Jeffrey, and I think he forgot that one.
Okay. My gosh, if they sign another DB, it just feels like enough already.
Well, if it's a true corner, I wouldn't be surprised because they only got 4 guys out there right now.
And I also got to think, JC's moving to wide receiver. Would Terrence Love, is he an option to move down to linebacker?
Maybe, but you've got a plethora of safeties right now.
Oh, yeah. Probably too many, honestly.
I'm almost I mean, my goodness. I
noticed that Keontae Scott, he plays nickel. Donovan Coughlin plays nickel. They were with the safeties. They don't work with the corners at practice. So really, McGriff is over there with 4 guys and a couple walk-ons. I mean, that's it.
And you've got Colton Hood and the other kid from Atlanta coming in from Pebblebrook.
Tyler Scott.
Tyler Scott, both coming in. That's a 3 deep, at corner. Now, obviously, if you sustain an injury, it might be a situation where Jalen Simpson goes back to corner because of the positional flexibility that he gives you.
Yeah, Jalen.
So I think you'd probably see more of that than us because we're right at the numbers, guys. I mean, unless you have a massive wave of attrition, and I don't know what we're expecting. Really, you want to prioritize the spots that you think you need right now, which are edge, linebacker, inside linebacker, interior offensive line, and quarterback. Those are the 4, and wide receiver. So 5 positions that Hugh Freeze has talked about at one point or another. You want to prioritize those first. And then if you have spots for the additional, then yeah, sure, maybe. But I don't think it's a need that's going to outweigh the ones that you already have on the board as of now.
It'll be something worth tracking, man. The transfer portal post-spring is going to be fun to watch to see how they handle that. Quarterback obviously is going to be the thing that keeps everybody on their toes, including us. And we will do our best to track it, man. We're going to end it right there, folks. Great show tonight, man. We appreciate everybody calling in. Jedi, Anthony, Edward, Coach C, Wes, and Jedi to finish it off, man. We had a lot of good questions. JP, Meek, Neek, Spark, Eric May came in there. Eric May asked in the chat about Jamonte Waller. He's supposed to come in, Eric, March the 27th. So keep an eye on him in a couple of weeks. Chase Woods, Blake, all had some really good, some good questions. We appreciate everybody, man. Y'all look for us in the morning. Keith and I will be back. I think Cole might join us in the morning for Inside the 20. We'll do it again on Wednesday, and then our in-depth recruiting show on Friday. Thanks, everybody. One more time. I know you were looking for a house in or around Auburn. Give Jessica Andrews a call, 334-704-4442. Tell her we sent you, man. Make us look good. Hey, everybody. Thanks so much, man. We appreciate everybody listening. We appreciate everybody watching. For Keith, for Zach in the back, for Jhead, for Cole, I'm Jeffrey Lee, man. Y'all stay out of that left lane. See ya.